You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And before we get started, we got to give a shout out to A Power Batteries. When you need extra power, get A Power. That's rcbatteriesusa.com. We all use them here at the Park Flyer Podcast, and because we do, we're going to give you a special discount. If you go to rcbatteriesusa.com, you can type in PFPC10, that's Park Flyer Podcast 10, and receive your discount.
Hey, wait, is there a jingle?
You know what? I don't have a jingle, but maybe we can come on.
Hey, power.
There you go.
Hey, power.
A Power. Well, we're really liking them. I think Mike is catching on too. He really likes his. Also, an amazing addition to us is the 3D Aero Adventures. That's the YouTube channel and e-commerce store where Pilot in Command Eric Haddad, who we've had on the podcast before, he uses 3D printing and model aviation to encourage his viewers and customers to never let go of the thing they were most passionate about. And growing up for Eric, that was RC model aviation. So 3D Aero Adventures offers fully 3D printable, functional RC aircraft designs that can be downloaded and fabricated on the hobbyist level. Desktop 3D printers. Visit www.3daeroventures.com to learn more about their design and their process of 3D printing your own unique aircraft. You can download the build guides and sample files for free in order to dial in your printer before purchasing. And just for the Park Flyer Podcast listeners, get 15% off of any purchase by entering the code PARKFLYER at checkout. So Park Flyer, I'll get some 3D printed, and then be so kind as to let us know here on the Park Flyer Podcast how they worked out. We'd love to hear your story.
And you can do that by calling 830-444-4943.
Speaking of which, we would like to give a shout out to Steve Wattenberg, who has utilized our phone number several times.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you,
seems
Steve.
weekly. I think that's stalking.
He's not stalking. But the good news is he gave us kudos for using electronic speed controller instead of
Escape,
which is something that has been on our brain for many years.
It's still going to happen, Mike. It's still going to happen.
I know it's still. But we are making an effort, and thanks to Steve and his constant reminding, which we love, by the way.
Stalking. I looked it up. It's called stalking.
We love it, by the way. And Steve, we're going to have to reach out to you and get you on the podcast. I think it'd be so much fun. So give us a call at 830-444-4943 and let us know if you're up for that. So
Okay, now I did it free for A Power, so I think I should do it for 3D Aero Ventures too.
What's that?
The jingle.
Oh, what's the jingle?
3D Aero Ventures.
Okay, you're fired.
I like it. Aero Ventures, here we come.
Okay, well, that was Eric. Thank you very much for letting
Sorry
us do
about that, Eric.
He just retracted that. So
Yeah, sorry about that, Eric. I didn't.
yeah, Eric just went.
I tried my
Okay,
best.
forget it. I
This
thought
is
those
why
guys
I'm
were
not
gonna
a
help me
musician.
out, but yeah, now they're not. So, well, the good news is you can probably see Jay is not in his hobby room. If you are watching the video, I'd actually like to give a shout out. Something happened in our last podcast video upload. I'm not really sure why it uploaded only my side, but anyway, we finally got it rectified. We took it down. A couple of people mentioned it. Hey, man,
Because you're the star.
I know. Well, I was the star, but whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got the new one out, and so this is our third attempt. And as you can see from watching the previous two, that Jay is not in his normal room because
I just happen to be here in Arizona.
he happens to be sitting across the desk from me. So yes, this is a wonderful opportunity. I did spend a couple of days down in Texas, which was our topic for tonight because we did some things that we had never done before, and we're happy to share them with you. And then, he decided, hey, if you're going back to Arizona, how about I just drive back up because my car and everything were down there. So I proceeded to jump in the car at dark 30 and I drove to Phoenix and Jay slept. So it worked out
pretty
great.
nice. Well, we did try to stop and see Eric along the way in El
We
Paso.
did. We thought we were going to be able to stop and see Eric Haddad there in El Paso. We barely would have made it.
Yeah.
He had
What do
an
you mean?
appointment.
Like,
Well, he
he
had an
fell off,
appointment.
or-
No, he had an
Oh.
appointment in the afternoon around 2:30.
And we just barely got there.
And
So
we
wouldn't have time
hit
to-
town at around 1:10, 1:15, and I'm like, man, it's just so close. Had we gotten there around noon, actually, it was one of these things that we had made this plan, but this plan came together typical between Jay and I, and Mike can verify this, but our plans usually come together around 10:30 at night when we're really tired, and we go, hey, I got an idea. Let's drive 15 hours to Phoenix. And then as I'm going down the hallway, I hear this, hey, man, we should stop and see Eric. And I'm like, oh, crap, let me send him an email. And, of course, we planned this a little better, we would have left Thursday and gotten out there and then flown, all afternoon with him and then spent the night in El Paso and then come on to Phoenix the next day. But as typical, it got messed up and we did not get to see him. So we are going to give him a shout out once again, the 3D Aero Ventures, Eric Haddad.
Aero Ventures.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we
Don't forget
will
the
try
3D
to
part,
make an
Jay.
effort to get through there. If not, then we'll definitely send him an invitation to the Electric Festival when it comes around in February. So
Now, that's a registered mark of Park Flyer Podcast for 3D Aero Ventures, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
There
That's
you
right. I don't know if I registered anything. So anyway, good. And then I understand that, Mike, you got to do some things as well, right? You're going to talk about today. So did you?
Yeah.
Okay. No? He's kind of like, well, you did do some soldering work, which was pretty amazing. So, right? Didn't you do a little fixing on your...
Well, you're talking about my
Throttle.
paramotor.
Yeah, no, but it's still, it's RC related when you're in there with your...
When you do it, yeah. Well,
wires
so the
and-
good old the TS 100 soldering iron, comes to the rescue again. I had a problem with my kill switch on my paramotor, which was interesting on the landing when it didn't work.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it could have hurt some things, but luckily nothing got cut or broke or it was
Well,
all
that's
worked
good
out.
news.
But so I had to solder some wires had come loose from the kill switch, which is a real bummer. But other than that, yeah, I got in there real small and got it all soldered up, nice and tight, looking good.
Did
Working
you just
great.
use the needle point?
Yeah, I
solder
did.
tip?
I actually used the small one. Yep, and that works. That works fantastic. You just really for those small wires because you can't really heat them up because all the plastic just sort of melts
Until
away.
it just wicks off.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you just put a little, you tin them up and then you put a little blob on the soldering iron and you just tap it real quick and as soon as you touch it, it's done. Takes a half a second. I learned that from the last
Perfect.
time we worked on it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Well, I used to have a TS100 sitting right here on my desk, and I cleaned my desk off, and I don't remember where I put it. So
I was just using it 5 minutes ago.
No, that's the current one. I had one in the box sitting over here, but I can't remember. I was going to hold it up for those that are watching the video. Now that that's out,
Well, just insert here.
I will.
You
I
know.
figured out how
Well,
to
can't
do
we
that.
can't we put like a TS100 link again down
We
at the bottom
can.
or
Yes,
something?
we do. We
It's
will.
a great idea.
Yeah, we'll do
Who
that.
thought of that?
So,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
I know, right? This is so. Jay was able to come out to Phoenix, and he was. I know, right? You can't see it, but evil. Anyway, so Jay was able to watch. He was sitting here yesterday morning or whatever, and he was watching it, and I think he's really kind of gotten kind of a good taste of this video thing. He liked it.
Well, at first I didn't like it because it was just weird to watch myself.
Mm-hmm.
On,
Yeah, because you were on it.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
on
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
one thing to hear my voice, like on a radio type thing. That was fine. But to see, my shiny, bald dome up there and
I
you know,
think you've
my
had your hat on
expressions and
each
stuff.
time. I don't
No,
remember
no,
you not.
last one I
The
did not.
first one.
So it just was kind of weird to me to see myself. But the reason I kind of like having doing the videos is because as we're talking about things, we know what we're talking about, but it's nice that we can visualize because you just think you're telling a story and people are going to understand exactly what you're talking about. And it could be everything from our use of the word of escape to other things. But if you show a picture of what you're talking about, or you show us a short video of what you're talking about, it's really easy to get the intent of what you're talking about to the audience. So I'm really starting to like what we're talking about. Because like you said, you were just talking about the TS100. You're going to hold one up. You didn't have one, but hey, you can insert one in, post edit and stick it in there, and then everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. So I just kind of like those things, whether we're talking about certain planes or what we were doing, and we can just post things up and people can see what we're doing. Even though we try to post it on our websites and some other place, Facebook and stuff, this way the video, I just think it's just, a little bit more organic, I guess.
Well, and it is fun to do as well, because you're trying to get everything done. And then I don't know if you watched the last one, Mike, when it just went up, but you were talking about flying underneath the bridge, and there's actually video of that, so I included it. And it's kind of neat. Jay and I were watching it together for a little bit, and he's like, oh, my gosh, that's really cool that it switches to you actually flying under the bridge and then back to us, So I think we're going to continue doing it. It's been a fun challenge, and I think it is our next big step. So leave us, a comment. You can go to our YouTube channel, the Park Flyer Podcast, and subscribe. And we'll try to make sure that these videos get put out correctly. And we're still kind of, working that out. But the upload portion of it, for some reason, grabbed the wrong file. But this time, I think I figured out why. So anyway.
I don't know. Do you feel like that was user error at all, Mike?
I do. I really do.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. As opposed to
platform
error?
No, because I saved the file into a specific folder, and then I think when I upgraded it, I took that one out instead of going with the one that was already completed. So
yeah,
because the one that actually got listed the first time that people may have watched was the raw video footage and audio. So the post-production part of it, where we can, we use microphones and everything, but the computer just, it just uses its internal microphone, and it's just me. Right. I'm just doing a screenshot. So anyway, we'll figure it out and we'll make it a little bit better, and maybe we can add some jingle music.
Just bear with us, folks.
Yeah. So that's, we're still learning the video. We're old guys. What can we say?
They don't have to watch if they don't want to, I guess.
No, they don't. They can listen to it just like they normally do.
Yeah.
So, well, we appreciate our listeners. Once again, the Park Flyer Podcast is worldwide. We see downloads all over the world. We need to start mentioning some of the countries that this thing gets downloaded in, because it's truly amazing for us to see our podcast being downloaded in Brazil and Germany, Madagascar. We had one out there. Yeah, we had one in Indonesia. Interesting, right? It's just really interesting. So shout out to all of our Japanese listeners, because they just hit the number 3 downloads behind the U.S. and Canada. So surprise, surprise. We evidently have a following in Japan. So that's good news too. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what we did in Austin.
Austin?
Wimberley. Wimberley.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess about a week, 2 weeks ago, when you first came down, I was looking for a project that we could do while you were down. And of course, everybody heard about what happened to my KeyCat, met its untimely demise. But I was also thinking of another project to do, and an individual named Tom, who lives down where I am, had a couple of gliders for sale. And the first glider that I tried to get, he sold, unfortunately. But when I wrote him and was talking to him, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I happen to have another one." And he showed me these gorgeous gliders, and I said, "Oh no, dude, that will not work." And he's like, "Why not? You should be able to do X, Y, and Z with it." And I said, "Well, you got to understand, I'm not going to be launching them with, not with a catapult. What do they call those things?
A winch.
With a winch, or with the rubber device.
High start.
A bungee cord. You're right. I said, I'm going
to we'll just be your conscious here.
Thank
you. Doubt. We're just going to hold signs up there, because he's just sitting right there.
I said,
exactly.
We were going to aero tow it up, right? We're going to tow him up with another plane. So I said, we've never done this before. I've never done this before. So I don't want anything expensive like those beautiful, gorgeous planes that obviously you put many, many hours into, only to have it smashed into,
bits,
balsa dust and stuff like that. Do you have something, that I can play with to figure this stuff out? And he goes, "Oh, well, I happen to have a gentle lady." And I go, "Perfect."
Yeah, that is amazing little.
That's a great. I had one of those. It's a great glider.
Mm-hmm. So he was like, "Oh, I just happened to a buddy of mine. He's kind of getting up there in years, and he's getting rid of his fleet. He happened to have one." So I was like, "Okay, great." And so I came down, met him, and got the plane. And so he was talking about it to me, and he was explaining the plane to me. They had modified it where they had actually added spoilers on it, and that was pretty neat. A little weird to kind of get together, but it works really fine. The design works fine. And so he was giving me some pointers if I was going to aero tow it. He's like, okay, well, just make sure you tow it somewhere near the nose. And I told him, well, I happen to have a tow release. I'm going to put it inside. It's going to, that's what I'm going to use. Well, unbeknownst to me, I bought this tow release, like 5 years ago from Hobby King. From Hobby King. Yeah. And I've been meaning to do this for the past 5-6 years or whatever. So when I got the tow release and put it up to the actual lighter, I'm like, this is not going to fit in this. If I turn it this way or that way, I might be able to get it in there, but I still have to put a servo in there too, and it takes up the room of where the battery goes. So I'm just like, yeah, that ain't going to work. So then I go, I wonder if they have anything in my on Thingiverse. Maybe I can 3D print something. Sure enough, there's 5 different designs on tow releases. Same problem though. By the time I put the servo in there for the tow release, it was just going to take up. It was just too tight in the Gentle Lady. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to have to let this go. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, I remembered a couple of months ago, I was watching this, once again, YouTube. I think I was started out with a cat video, but anyway, I ended up with these 2 German guys, and they're towing around a plane with Velcro. And so basically they had a length of rope. It went into a loop, a little small loop of Velcro. And they had Velcro right on the nose, on the bottom, and they just stuck the Velcro on the bottom of that, and they towed it up. And then when they separated, one guy would go down to the right, the other guy would pull up to the left, and it would just shear the Velcro, and they'd be off and flying. And I go, well, that looks kind of easy. I had plenty of Velcro. When Mike was here, we went out and we got the cord or string for it, and put out 50 or 75 feet of this stuff, and I rigged it up, made a couple of links with my 3D printer to kind of just snap it all together.
I was very skeptical, by the way.
Yeah,
I am just listening to
I was
it. I'm
sitting there.
skeptical.
I was doing other stuff. They had other projects going on, and I said, "What are you doing?" Because he's over there messing around with it, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to make a tow release," and so he's got like. In his room, he's got like this string going back and forth on the floor, and I'm like, what the? And he's got this Velcro tied on the end of it. He goes, "Oh, this is what we're going to tow the plane with." I was like,
"Yeah, it was just a short, like 1-inch piece of Velcro."
It was this big. I mean, it would literally. I mean, and it was 2 pieces, and it was looped around. And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, I know what you read, brother, but I just don't. I don't see how this is going to work." In my head, I just had envisions of trying to turn left and right and having this thing just and rip the nose right off, or just drag it around, swinging this Gentle Lady around with this airplane. But I was pleasantly surprised. So
yeah. So we get out to the field once again. There really wasn't any wind or anything. So we flew the Fun Cub to make sure it was still trimmed out, and it was having some problems. That was
interesting because he hands me the Fun Cub and says, "Here you go." He's out there putting the string and everything out, and getting everything set up. And he says to me, "Oh, well, here, test this out." So he hooks it up, with the battery, and I did one of those ring, and whoop, took off. And when I took off, the airplane just went. I actually put 10 degree or the first notch of flaps, takeoff flaps, and I started going. And this thing literally was headed straight uphill with full down elevator. I mean, full down. And I go, "Jay, I've got full down elevator.
I think there's a problem.
I think there's an issue." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I go, "There's an issue." So I pull the power to idle. And, of course, it just tips over, and now it's just coming straight down to the ground. And I pull back. I go, "Now I have full aft elevator." And he's like, "What?" And so I added a little bit of power. I got it back around, and I put it over into the tall grass on the other side of the field where the grass is real high. And anyway, it came down. I tried to put full flaps in there. One of the flaps only came partially down. So now the airplane's rolling, and I'm just like, "Oh, my gosh, what? Did you test this thing?" And
that's what you were for.
Oh, I was just sitting there with the radio
Yeah,
in my hand.
I was busy with the glider, so.
So
that's
anyway,
what-
it came down. Luckily, with full flaps in, it's it's a Fun Cub. The thing flies at 1 mile an hour. Anyway, it came down and just landed in the tall grass. Didn't even get to the ground. I think the grass, it's so light, the grass stopped it. So Jay was out there anyway, and so he walked over, picked it up, brought it back, and he's like, well, let me see. And I was moving everything, and I go, that's weird because all the control surfaces are working. They're all working. I said, but they weren't working in the air. I know they weren't. He's like, no, it was. He touches something on the inside, and the whole elevator stops working. Flaps don't work. Nothing works. And I'm like, we have a short somewhere. And so he messed around, and I guess it was one of the pins or something was coming loose or something. But anyway, we eventually found it. But yeah, I flew that whole round the pattern without an elevator, just using flaps and power. So it was pretty crazy. That would have been disastrous though had we just hooked it up.
Had I been flying it,
well, I'm just saying, had we just hooked it
I
up,
would have nosed in for sure. I mean, there's no way I would have been able
who
to.
knows? I doubt it with that cut. With the Fun Cub, just putting the flaps out slowed the thing down to a feather.
I'm saying I probably wouldn't have thought of that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
I would have been
anyway,
like,
so we got it
shit.
fixed. We got the Fun Cub fixed, and then I went out there and got it all set up, and then next thing I know, he's got this long string with this carabiner on the end of the string, and he's wrapping it around the fuselage.
Well,
of the airplane.
wait! Before we did that, we had to test the Gentle 80.
Oh, that's true. We did test the Gentle Lady first
because we had no idea how she would fly or anything. So we just kind of got out to the field, and the other thing we had to do was I had set the plane up on my radio, but I only had my radio for the Fun Cub, so that was going to be the radio for the Fun Cub. And I said, "Hey, Mike, I made a profile here. You could just copy it out of what just look at what I did. I only have one thing, and that is you have to switch the elevator to the ailerons, because on the receiver I had, for some reason, the elevator portion of it, if you plugged into that, wasn't working, but everything else worked."
Did you hear what he just said? He has a receiver with one channel not working. This has got disaster written all over it, right? Because he does that out. I did not know this.
It's good enough for a foamy. It's good enough for any plane.
Oh, yeah, sure. This is a balsa wood Gentle Lady, though, right? And so he tells me, he's like, I had to switch this over. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, it has something to do with the fact that there's spoilers and there's no ailerons on it. It's just a rudder. So
assumptions going on here.
Exactly. And I never really questioned it because I did not understand that he had a receiver with a channel that was no longer working. So he just basically moved the plug over to the next one, and I'm supposed to know. So I'm in my radio programming all this stuff. So when I get it all programmed, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And, I'm moving it around. And so what do I do is I'm, Jay has the rudder on the rudder and the elevator on the elevator. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be flying like this. And then the bad news is the spoilers are up in the throttle off position, right? Because they're spoilers. That's how you land. You pull the throttle off and the spoilers come up. So that means you have to fly with the throttle stick full forward. Well, now I've got a full forward, right? And I'm having to move the rudder for that to fly the main and then pull the elevator. And I'm thinking, this is the most uncomfortable, odd shaped, and I got the DX18, so it's not like it's a small radio. And so Jay looks at me and goes, "You ready?" And he's got it all, all tuned up. And I said, "I'm ready for you to maiden it, but I'm not going to maiden it." And he's like, "Why not?" And I go, "Because there's already in my head, this is not working out, And I had gone into the radio to try and program rudder to aileron mix, but I could not figure out why it wasn't working, right? Because there wasn't an aileron selection. We had moved the elevator to the ailerons. And so I'm in the radio and I'm like, this isn't working, and I'm like, all right, screw it. So I'm just going to have him do it, because that way if he's moving this, and it crashes, it's not me that did all the damage. So anyway, he says, "You want me to maiden it?" I'm like, "Yep, I'll throw it for you." So I gave him the radio and I took the airplane, and I just had this smirk on my face like, oh, this is going to be one of those things where he's going to go, "Oh man, we haven't even got to the toe. This is just the glide portion to make sure the control surfaces work." So anyway, I took 2 steps and I threw this thing, and wow.
Yeah.
It glides and glides and glides.
Oh my gosh, that thing took off and went almost to the river. And it was just from my hand. I'm 6'1". I just threw it over my head.
Yeah,
and he didn't really even have to do
throw
anything.
it like light, and even with that, it's like 26-1 or some kind of crazy glide ratio. The thing is amazing.
Yeah, so it was just going. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going down the hill towards the river, like Mike was talking about. And so once again, like he was saying, the throttle is on the rudder, and just by sheer, I guess it would be body action, not muscle memory.
Muscle memory.
I was like, oh, got to cut the throttle. And I pulled back, which, of course, put out the spoilers, which it just gently glided, came down into the tall grass. Or else it would have just kept gliding all the way across the field. It was just amazing just how well it glided.
Yeah. I was really impressed. I mean, I did not expect that to go well at all. I really didn't. I expected us to be putting our stuff in the in the car.
Get the garbage bag.
So I was already headed to the car to get one. But
start the fire. You got to put this balsa dust in there.
So I was really impressed, right? And so anyway, we went and picked it up, and then on the way back, the 2 of us are walking back. I told him, I was like, that is very. Or he mentioned the fact. He said, "Oh, I see what you're talking about, having the full forward on the throttle stick, trying to move the rudder. We really should do some of that mixing that you
just move it off,
or just move it to the ailerons. We're going to have to do that. Just move it to the ailerons." And I said, yeah, because it's really weird to have the throttle full and try to move. That's your main control, right? I mean, if they were both in the middle, it would have worked. At least your fingers wouldn't have been, opposing each other. Mm-hmm. So I told him, I was like, well, I tried.
And I would have had that already on my plane, because I don't fly that rudder very often.
Right.
So I fly it with rudder aileron. I mean, I map the ailerons to the rudder.
Right. And so I told Jay on the way back, here we're walking back. I've got the radio and he's got the airplane. And I said, I tried, mixing it, but it wouldn't mix. I go, the aileron channel's not there. And he goes, oh, well, that's because the ailerons don't work. No, he said that's because there are no ailerons.
Right. There were none.
And I go, well, yeah, but I should be able to mix the channel just because the ailerons aren't there. And I said, the channel's not even there. He goes, well, it's broke. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, it doesn't work. The elevator doesn't work, or whatever the channel was.
Right,
so
the channel for the
elevator didn't work. So I moved the elevator into the aileron channel. And I went, whoa. Well, then the light bulb came on, and I understood why it was that we were using a 5-channel, because one channel. And I'm like, why would you do that? This is something we've never done before. We're about to tow this nice balsa glider up, and you're using some crappy, piece of junk that you found in your box that's not working. This is just disastrous.
I don't see any problem with that,
man.
Jay.
When I was putting that stuff together, it was like freaking O Dark 30. So,
and that's what he said. He goes, well, this is all I found last night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just, once again, I'm just watching balsa dust going everywhere on the field. So I told him,
the good news is none of our listeners or watchers in this case do that sort of thing. I'm sure.
No. This is just us.
They use reasonably good working parts that we don't do.
Yeah, exactly. And kudos to you for doing that, right? So anyway, I told him, I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. He's like, well, we're going to have to just switch it out. And I said, whoa, wait. I have a good idea. I said, we've got 5 channels, right? And one of them is an auxiliary channel. So I said, let's go ahead and assign this auxiliary channel, and I can do this mix. So that's basically what I did. In my radio, I took the rudder, actually took the auxiliary channel, and I made it the rudder channel, or the aileron channel. And then I took the rudder and the auxiliary, and I mixed them so that now the auxiliary was on my aileron stick, and it moved maybe, what do you think, Jay? Probably 5% of the rudder?
5 or 10, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 10%. And then if you added rudder, it went, even more. So it was exponential. So anyway, I put all that in there, and then that way you can, kind of turn it with the ailerons just slightly and add the rudder and really get it to turn, and which is the way I prefer to do, to teach people to fly. We've had that whole podcast before. So anyway, didn't mean to interrupt, but now comes the whole, we've flown and figured out the problems with the Fun Cub. We tested the Gentle Lady. Now here comes the Velcro part.
Right. So like Mike was saying, I kind of laid everything out on the field. Had my little carabiner thing that I had made that wrapped around the aircraft.
Oh, that
Wait,
you got to understand.
Did he
it's
say
a
can
carabiner.
of beer?
It's a can
Can of
cara-
beer. Can of beer? Not can of beer. Can of
He
beer.
can't even say this word. It's a carabiner.
Carabiner.
Carabiner. There you go. Can.
Oh my
Can of-
gosh.
Hold,
Not only
well, I
is
just
this
thought
a
it was like, hold my
carabiner-
beer. Watch this. That's what I thought it was.
Hold my beer.
So the night before, he's walking around and I'm doing some stuff and we're playing games and working on planes and stuff and just having a good time. And he says, "Hey, Mike, what is that thing that you use when you rock climb? It goes around, has a little spinny thing on it. It's like a little
Can of beer.
And I'm looking at him and I'm looking and exactly. And I'm kind of like, well, of course I know what it is, right? But you can see it in his head. He's like, oh, it's this, and he's describing this whole thing. And I go, I don't know what that is, but I said it's what I use when I rock climb is a carabiner. That's it. It's a carabiner. And then off he goes. I was like, oh, he must be going to look for one. No, he went to his computer and 3D printed one. So now we have a 3D printed carabiner about, so big, probably about an inch and a half. And it even has a little screw part in there. I was actually pretty impressed with that, although the screw part doesn't work very well. But
It's like a 2 ounce stress.
oh yeah, it's a little thing.
Yeah.
So
with
so
2
he-
ounces, it's like snap right
yeah,
apart.
and so he ties. This is another thing, right? I mean, why wouldn't you go get a metal carabiner and
if I
you
had
3D?
one, I would I'd use it, but I didn't have a small one, so I printed one out.
So he 3D
And
prints.
none of the
this-
stores are open that late at night,
No,
so
they're
there you
not.
go.
And we're going out the next morning, so this was a great deal. And so he did it, and then he took the kite string stuff or whatever we had, and then he wraps it around the carabiner, and then he takes it and wraps it around the nose of the airplane. And I'm standing there looking at it. I'm like, dude, why don't you put that on the tail wheel? Just hook it to the tail wheel. He goes, everything I watched on YouTube said to put it on the front of the nose. I was like,
No, to put it right around the front of the aircraft, not the front of the aircraft,
it's
but
the nose of the airplane.
no, it wasn't around the nose. It ran over the nose, but really where the string was coming out was right near the spar.
Yeah. It actually wrapped around the
so
front
at
of
the
cowling,
CG,
and then-
basically. It's real close
Yeah,
to
so
the CG.
so it went
Okay.
over the top of the wing, underneath where the landing gear was, came back up, and then hooked onto itself. So the carabiner would have been in the front window of the Fun Cub, and the string would have come right off and then right down the back of the airplane. And I'm like, okay, whatever. If you said that, once again in my head, I'm thinking, disaster coming my way. I mean, once again, I'm gonna be responsible.
Well, I can
Let's see if
understand
we
why
can
they
make
do
this
it
crash.
because you
Yes.
think about it, if you had it on the tail of the plane, right? So if you have a moment that's back, they're moving the back of the tail of the plane up
Right,
and down,
that's
right
correct.
and left, and it's not a tricycle landing gear. It was it's a tail
tail
wheel
wheel.
aircraft,
Right.
and now you have an extra moment on the back there, just tugging on that.
Well, plus you're guiding a plane with that. So there's that.
Yeah, that's true
So
too.
if
Right.
You're going to level out or whatever. You're going to move that back end.
Correct.
More than you are the front end, right?
That is
I mean,
correct.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And
This
it
is-
does
this
make
is
sense.
all
to me
making
now,
sense. Yeah.
Right? I mean, at the time, I'm standing out in the field sweating, going, I don't think this is going to work at all.
Well, so anyway, we get everything laid out. We kind of do a function check, double, triple check everything. And we kind of go over, what our procedure to disengage from each other, if things go bad. You're going to go right, I'm going to go left. You're going to go down, I'm going to go up type of thing. And we attempt to tow it off the field. So Mike's like, okay, here we go. And the plane's just sitting there on the ground. Everything's just sitting there.
Nothing moved.
Nothing's moving, right? And I'm like, ooh, okay.
He goes, more power. I said, that's full throttle, bro.
So I walk back over to the plane and I just kind of give it a little shove to get it going, and it starts moving. Well, it's starting to move, and then all of a sudden it starts skewing. Starts doing the
Right,
little
left
spin
and
and flips upside down. Boom, kind of crashes. So Mike stops everything. I get up there, check for damage, and maybe the rubber bands came off or something. So I put them all back on. We try it again, and the same thing happens. And I'm sitting there like, oh, this time I'm like watching, what's going on. And so what was happening is it started getting up to speed. It's the field, although I had mowed it like a week or two ago. It's not like overgrown or anything, but it has a few of those wisps that grow up kind of high off the grass. It's just they're real thin.
They're like those stalks, just like real thin stalks of grass,
but,
but they're tall.
but it doesn't
Grass
really affect
stalkers.
any of the plane. You know, if you're a prop plane or even an EDF, you could fly off the field
Yeah,
still.
no
You know what I
worries.
mean? But it was just enough to catch the glider and catch the glider wing, and it would just start the plane to skew back and forth. You know, and it would just roll up right onto its back when what happened. So I'm like, okay, that isn't going to work. And so Mike's like, well, we can just launch it off the table. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like that's going to be a good idea.
Dude, I was all for that. Just set it on the table and get like a skier right off the dock. He's just sitting on the dock. Boat goes out. As soon as it pulls him, doof, it's off the table. It's already airborne. He's like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
So
I thought it was a good idea.
So what those German guys do was when they tried to, if the ground launches weren't working, they would hand launch it. But what they would do is they'd run a little bit and then just gently let go of the plane, and then they could take off there. Well, that seemed to work because Mike could get off. He can get the plane, the Fun Cub, moving, and with me having off the ground and just gently tossing it. It was already 5 feet up in the ground, off the ground. It was just enough that it would just the plane floats pretty well, so it would float, and the other plane would build up speed, and then would be able to catch the plane. And it just climbed right out. Easy peasy.
Now,
And
this was one of those other amazing, where I just was expecting all of this stuff to go wrong, right? I mean, we'd already had 2 attempts and it wasn't going to work. I'm waiting for Jay as he's going to start running, because this is what he says to me. I'm going to run with this in my hand, and then I'm going to toss it, and I'm just seeing myself, him tripping over something. The radio goes flying. The airplane goes in forward. He's laying flat on his face, and I'm trying to, can't help him because I've got the Fun Cub in the air. It just, once again, my head and all of that reasonableness that rolls around inside my brain. Yeah, this isn't going to work out very well at all. And then, the Fun Cub takes off and just starts climbing. And I was like, no way. And Jay's like, you got it? And he's halfway across the fields. And I'm like, I can't talk to him over there. I'm yelling. I'm like, get over here. So he's like, jogging over to me with his radio, trying to fly behind me. And I've got this thing wide open throttle, and it's just barely, it's not really barely climbing. It is climbing pretty good. But So I get him up, and then now it's like he turned inside of me. So all of a sudden we've got a tightrope and then instant slack, right? So now the string looks like a U. And I thought to myself, oh, well, that didn't, okay, we got it up there, but this is it. I thought the string detached. Well, Jay moved back behind me, and next thing you know, it went from a U-shaped string to just boing like that. And his airplane was turning, and it just snatched that nose around and just, took off behind the airplane. And I went, oh, this isn't working out either, because that Velcro should have detached, but it didn't. And now I told Jay, I was like, this is going to be tricky, because the Velcro, having, grabbed the nose of that airplane, pulled it around, was a pretty hard pull. I mean, he had no control over the airplane. It just jerked it right in line. And I told him, I was like, well, just keep your wings level and we'll just come around. We'll try to land. And so I started to turn. And when I did, he rotated the other direction and it separated. And I was like, no way. He's like, I'm off. I'm like, yes, you are. So I just chopped the throttle, came nose right in the ground and touched down and, taxied up to where we were, pulled the string all in, and he flew a little bit downwind. And next thing you know, he goes, there was 2 birds that came flying in and started circling, and he joined them and literally specced that thing out. It was amazing.
Then I handed the radio over to Mike, and he was flying around for a bit. And then I said, well, try the spoilers. So we tried the spoilers, and, the plane dropped down out of the sky.
Let me tell you, those spoilers work really well.
Yeah.
There's nothing like flying a Gentle Lady. I tell you what, those things are.
Oh my gosh! Jay flew for 10 minutes, and then he handed the radio to me, and I probably flew for another 6 minutes.
I've flown for an hour and a half, no stick.
Really?
I set trims. I was flying in this area, and the thermals would be coming through, and it would just catch it, and then it would just fly around in a nice big circle.
Wow!
For like an hour and a half. I was like, wow.
So I was pretty happy that I got this version that had the spoilers, because that definitely added to the plane.
Wow, there was no way we were going to be able to get it down in any hurry from where it was. I mean, this thing was like tiny. And unfortunately, it's all one color on the bottom. It's all blue. So I'm like, oh, which way? He hands me the radio, and I look up and I go, I can barely see this thing. Which way are we going? He's like, I don't know. I was like, great. So I'm doing stuff like, okay, I don't know, is it turning? Is it not turning? No ailerons. It's not like I can roll it, It just does this nice gentle turn, and it was just stuck in this left-hand turn, and the thermal just kept going up and up and up. And I'm like, how do I get it out of the thermal? So I, kicked the spoilers in and kind of flew it around, and like I said, I was up for 6 or 8 minutes, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, my neck is killing me now. It's looking up there.
You couldn't tighten the turn with the rudder?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You could tighten it.
So why didn't you do that to get it out of there?
Well, I mean, we did, but it just, that's eventually how we got it out. But it was just one of those things. I didn't want to really jump out of it because it was way up there. But the birds eventually moved off, and so anyway, he goes, well, check out the spoilers. So I did, and that thing just comes straight down like an arrow. I mean, those spoilers do wonders for that airplane. And it's coming down out of the sky, and Jay's like, don't rip the wings off. It's only held on by a rubber band. And you could see the airplane just, it's starting to vibrate. I was like, oh, yeah, good point. So threw the spoilers back in, flew it around, and it was tough. I've flown a lot of gliders that have really good glide ratios, but this one here, I misjudged. I mean, I expected, even with spoilers, I had them in, I took them out, I put them in, I took them out, and the airplane just kept on going. So it went right past us, kept on going. I threw the spoilers in, and it was headed out to llama land, out there, because the llamas weren't out there this time. But it was towards that fence area, and I was like, oh, man. So it went way out there, and he's like, oh, you got to walk and go get it. So I did. I walked and cruised over there. So then now he said, okay, well, I told him, I was like, well, let me try the launch, right, because we figured out how to do the launch. So what happens is Jay says, okay, and he swaps out the batteries in his Fun Cub. And so I'm out there in the field, and I got the radio, and I'm standing with the with the glider ready to go, and he's messing around with the the Fun Cub trying to get it going, and he's like, okay, you ready? And I'm like, yes. So I didn't know whether to start running and then throw it, or how the whole thing works. So I waited, so I'm holding this airplane, and I waited till the string got taut. But I never let go of the airplane. I could have just let go of it, but I was expecting to run, So he's full throttle, and I'm literally holding the airplane from getting airborne. And then he's like, run, and I'm like, oh. And so I took 2 steps, and the airplane just jerked out of my hands. And he pitches up to start climbing, and I think he grabbed an already used up battery, because about that time we got about and the airplane. Well, of course. I let go. So the gentle lady's climbing at this 45-degree, up, and then all of a sudden he's diving. So now the gentle lady's pitching over, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, because we're not even probably, 6 or 8 feet above the ground.
Well, we were higher. We were a little higher.
A little higher maybe, but so I just rolled the airplane opposite direction to him, and the Velcro came apart. And I go, I'm off. And he's like, good. And then, he didn't even have enough energy to get back to the ground. He just dead sticked it in. And so anyway, I flew it around the pattern about 3 or 4 times, and then there was no wind or thermals or nothing, so I came in and landed. I was like, dude, you need a new battery to that thing. That thing was dead, and we laughed. And so he dug around in his bag. He goes, okay, I think this one's charged, So he put that in there, and we.
Well, yeah, it's too bad Jay doesn't have a battery tester.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll have to get him one. So,
so
anyway, we put the.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
Exactly. We put the new battery in, and that one was much better. And so we tried it again and actually got up to altitude. And it is very tricky to try and fly the gentle lady behind the airplane. It's almost easier just to let the Cub pull the airplane around.
And going straight out.
Yeah,
right?
And just go straight out and pull it, and all you're doing is trying to keep the wings level. And then even when he makes a turn, we were trying to turn as well, but you turn inside. And if you just let it pull you, then the nose will come around. So we figured that out. And so the third time, that we went up, I flew it around, probably 5 minutes or so, and then I came in and landed. I think we flew it one more time, I think.
Yeah, it was getting hot by that time.
It was really brutally hot. So we had, believe it or not, we had 4 successful launches and 4 successful recoveries. We had an emergency that was recoverable, and both airplanes got on the ground okay. And we had a blast.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, we were high-fiving going, like, man, this is amazing. Because, hey, it's something we've never done before.
No, never.
Never, ever done.
I'm sorry I missed that. That would have been.
Oh, it would have been
fun.
great. Yeah, you would have been giggling the whole time. But.
So interesting thing is I just happened to watch a guy in a real glider get towed by a plane. Mm-hmm. And what you guys are talking about is pretty much some of the same things that he had to deal with.
Correct.
In a real plane, which was, the plane would turn and he would turn. Well, he didn't have the same problems you guys did, obviously, but there still was some. You could tell like the tow cable would yank him a little bit,
sure.
a direction or that, and then he would adjust based on what was happening there. But that's basically what they did. They just flew straight on out, and he got up over some mountains that had some thermal lift, and he was off and flying. But it sounds pretty cool, guys. I wish I was there.
Once again, the hard part about it was not, climbing. If you're climbing straight out from you, it was easy to stay with the tow plane and keep your attitude and climb rate. It's when Mike would turn to fly back down the field. It's not so much like getting discombobulated because of the controls, but it was, your perspective. Am I dead in line with him behind him, or now is the glider, off like this? Is it up and above him like this? Am I turning inside of him? So now I'm down and below him as he's turning. It's very hard to gauge that, when you're looking at the plane as it's flying, this way as opposed to going straight out,
It kind of looks like Maverick talking with his hands.
I know. Yeah.
There we were.
I had him. So anyway, it was very interesting. I could see you need a little bit more stick time to kind of work that out. But it was really fun. It was a lot of fun doing the towing and the gliding. Just because I did a carrier landing, my first carrier landing. After I towed Mike up and he came off, I came in and the Velcro caught on some Texas weed out there. Just as I came over the mode part of the runway, it caught on some weed and the plane went ding, right to the ground. I was like,
it was funny. It looked like an elevator.
So. Very interesting, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It was well worth the money, and my thanks to Tom for selling me the plane, and like I said, it gave us some good content, and we had a good time doing it, and gave us a good story.
And I will tell you that I'm truly amazed that the Velcro actually worked, because that was something that I let Jay do it because he read about it, but I just fully expected this not to work.
Hey, forget about that. What about the 3D printed stuff? I mean. You know what? I'd say that's my point. I'm most impressed with the recent things that we've done, having a 3D printer with model adventures, because
True.
We've solved a bunch of different things with a part that we couldn't find or they're available, but we got to order it and it would take weeks to get it or whatever.
Right.
And with the 3D printer, Jay's able to print this stuff up. I mean, what we did to my MX2, for example, to make that thing be better,
that's right,
with regard to the battery tray and the way the wing holes held the rods and stuff. I mean, that stuff all shored that stuff up and made the plane fly better and more controlled, because in my MX2 the battery was kind of shifting back and forth because of the way I had it set up. But now I could put it in that tray and shove it forward, and it's all good, and it stays in there nice and tight. And so, you don't have to have a big printer. I'm pretty sure my Delta can print all the things that we've ever printed at Jay's so far.
Yeah,
probably so. Yeah.
And
in fact, I modified
printer.
The stuff that was too big, like the tray and some other stuff. I modified them so that you could print if they ever broke, you could print them out. They would just come out in two pieces, and you glue them together, and it'd be fine.
Yep. And so just that kind of stuff. In fact, I was been working on my printer today, and I'm looking at. I'm going to be making my VTOL at some point. I'll start working on that. And Jay turned me on to an idea of using gears to turn the
motors.
No, to turn the motor direction instead of using a troll arm. And I think that'll work out way better, because I can do gear ratios, and so that way, if I need to turn more or less, I can adjust that with either a change in gear ratio or just a change in the movement curve, and so it can get really precise engine placement based on.
Right, because that was the one thing. If the rods were different lengths or they were whatever, they're not turning in unison. You know what I mean? So,
there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues, and with what I was doing was I was gluing stuff directly, and once you glue it in place, you don't really have a chance to adjust it.
Right.
But now I can make like a One thing we had trouble with was motor mounts. Now I can make a motor mount out of plastic, put it right on there. I can zip tie it in a certain spot or screw it into a certain spot. And if it's in the wrong spot, I just have to unscrew it a little bit, rotate it, screw it back down. I mean, all kinds of good possible things, and all through because of the 3D printing makes that possible.
No, absolutely. In fact, I printed out AZ Mike. I printed him a bunch of battery, not cup,
caps.
No, they're cup caps.
They're caps.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it.
A battery cap?
Yeah, the exposed end where you plug the battery in, like to your.
Oh, like on the cover of a Dean's or in the cover.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I have the EC 5s or whatever they are, and XT90s.
90s.
Why would you need a cap for either one of those?
Because Jay was just printing stuff
just
out.
I was just printing stuff one day.
I was not there for a month, right? I left all my stuff there, and I was gone for a month. So he was busy doing that stuff, and I never even noticed because when we got there, we were busy working on his stuff. My stuff was in another room, and then when we got time to go, I just loaded it all in the car. I have a big carry case for all my batteries. I didn't even look at it. I just shoved it in the car. So anyway, we got home, and just today, I guess, we were putting the new motor in. Now we're back in Arizona. I'm putting the new motor in my EDF, my L39, because we ordered it last time, and you can see it's missing. There's two of them there, and now one's missing. But I went to go grab a battery, and I'm like, "What is this thing?" And then I realized that every battery in my entire case had a cap on it, and I was just
That's cool.
Did you print these out?
And when you guys drove to Phoenix, do you have to go by Dallas?
No,
unfortunately.
Because I would have loved to get my wings back.
I know, right? We talked about that. So
yeah, when he flew up there,
I would have met you somewhere.
Fly the plane. He could have brought the wings up.
Because remember I came up to Dallas.
I know,
but
I know.
I think we have a friend Tom is coming down. Maybe we can send him.
Yeah,
back
Tom may
up
be
with him.
coming down.
So for the
4th of July.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get your wings back to you.
Oh, I'll
highly modified. Because Jay's had them for a month, but
yeah, that's fine.
They probably have
flamethrowers. They'll probably work a lot better. Yeah,
they got flamethrowers and bomb drops and all this other stuff on them. But yeah, they'll be good.
50 cal.
They'll work.
50 cal.
Yeah, 50 cal. So, well, I have to say that it was a blast, to learn that and to actually go through that. Jay and I, had never done that before. And it's amazing that we hadn't. I mean, as many years as we've been doing this and as many gliders as we've flown, we've never winched a glider and we've never towed a glider.
Or bungeed one.
I've done high start.
Have you done high start? So you'll have to walk us through something like that. We have done the DLG, so I've done those.
It's really nothing different than what you're talking about.
Really?
The toughest part is that you don't hold the plane in the wrong spot, so you don't rip off a surface.
Oh, right.
Right. I mean, you basically hold it by the the bungee, the high start rubber part.
Oh, gotcha.
Up by the nose, which is where it's connected up by the nose. And in my case, it just has an L wire with a washer on it. As soon as it gets past, it just slides right off.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, as long as it's not tensioned the whole time, right?
So that was something Tom did warn me of, because this glider did have a
high start
hook on it, which is back by the
it's right in front of
CG,
the wings,
right?
Yeah.
CG, right? And so he said, "Oh, if you're going to tow the plane, whatever you do, don't use that hook." And I go, "Why not?" And he goes, "Yeah, you do not want to do that." And I go, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Well, when you use a high starts go out at anywhere from a 40 to a 50 degree angle when they launch, and they just kind of go up until they reach their peak, and then the thing falls off, and then you can start gliding. But it goes for maximum altitude in the shortest amount of time." I said, "If you go and try to tow the plane like that, well, it's when you launch it, it's going to do this." Right. And he goes, "You want to be behind an aircraft towing you and going at a 45 degree angle up above a plane that's trying to climb out and get you to altitude." Goes,
that would have been disastrous.
That's what he was saying. It would be disastrous. He goes, "You want to get towed by the nose or to the side or to the top. Doesn't matter where, just as long as it's somewhere on the nose." So that's what I kind of did.
Well, I hope you can provide some pictures of where you taught,
right.
where you tied it on.
Unfortunately, we didn't. We took some, but we didn't send them to you.
Yeah.
No, I meant for everybody else. I mean,
yeah. We took some photos. And it was a pretty good setup. I got a really good photo. Probably use it for our webpage, but it's looking down the string all the way from the Fun Cub to the Gentle Lady, so it's actually kind of cool. It was a nice time. It wasn't really super hot. There was one or two thermals that Jay got to catch. It was an interesting skill, and then we spent the rest of the time talking about, wow, it would have been really cool to have the Turbo Beaver there because that thing would have been fantastic. A big 6-cylinder turbo, plenty of power, just would have gone up, and it would have gotten airborne so quickly because it's got full span flaps. You can do all that work, and so the Fun Cub was a good start, but I think it probably to launch it off the ground.
If I'm going to do it again, I'm going to go ahead and probably prop it down to a 12-inch prop, and put a 4-cell in it.
That'll work. So.
You had another use for a Fun Cub, way I look at it.
Yeah.
Well, the Fun Cub does come with a tow release option, which came with the plane. You just have to hook a servo up to it so it releases from the plane. Yeah. Yeah,
from the roof, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, so I know we're coming into closing our show here pretty quick, but I got a gift or package that showed up on my doorstep the other day.
What?
Yeah, and it was a surprise to me, too, because I didn't order it. And so it turns out it was a gift that Jay had sent me for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they finally got around to giving it the COVID okay, and they ended up delivering.
Actually, no. You have you have a first birthday gift, and this is your second birthday gift.
Right.
I have 2 birthday gifts. This is good. It's
two
better than
birthday
Festivus.
Gifts. Yeah, better than Festivus. Yeah. So you were a really good boy last year or this year. So anyway,
better than Festivus.
So basically, I had ordered you something, and that was held up by COVID. They were like, "Oh no, but Amazon's not shipping it out." I made sure I got it was coming from Amazon. I didn't order it from overseas just because I knew with the Wuhan thing, it wasn't going to come in at any time. So it said it's going to be there like in a week, and I'm like, "Oh great," order it. Nothing. They write me back and they go, "Oh, but Amazon because of COVID, Amazon is swamped trying to send out masks to people. So your stuff's been put in the rear, on the truck type of thing before it gets on the truck. Can you wait?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Well, that turned into a month, 2 months. And then I'm like, "Hey guys, am I getting this stuff? Starting to, COVID's going away. Hey, ship my buddy's stuff
Mike
out."
might move. So
yeah, right. He might move.
What's going to happen?
So anyway, I'm getting no response from those guys, and they're like, "Oh, it's still delayed because of COVID." And I'm like, "Okay, this isn't working." So I went ahead and I ordered you your gift, and it came fairly shortly. It came like in 3 or 4 days, and so I was just hoping you'd like it, so you wouldn't have to wait all that long. So
the second gift you're talking about.
I forgot to tell you. So the first gift actually is going to go to me when you get it. That'll be your birthday gift to me because I ordered batteries because I ordered one too, and so my batteries just showed up right before we left. By the way, but they canceled my order for the gift, but your order's still in. So hopefully yours shows up, and then
then you can give it back to Jay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the maker of this helicopter.
Ishi.
Was a helicopter I got.
Ishi.
Yeah. And I liked it because one, it flew for a long time. Like the longest I've ever flown one of those little toy helicopters. It flies in the house.
I got it. Yeah,
it's the kind of thing that flies in the house. You wouldn't really want to fly it outside. I don't think it would do the wind very well, but it manages really nicely. Has the same problems that you always get with those toy helicopters. The trim works
sure.
When you trim it in the front of the battery, it works one way, and then as the battery starts to die, you have to trim it back just to continue flying it. So you try to find a really reasonable trim spot, so you're not back and forth trimming it.
Yeah,
right?
You're not back and forth.
But it seems to fly around pretty good. I did bust the tail boom, the thing that you land where it holds the tail rotor off the ground. I ended up busting that.
Oh, yeah.
Little tail skid.
Yeah, tail skid, yeah. But I was able to glue it back. I don't know how long it'll stay, but I was able to glue it back, and I probably could print something that would fit, in space or something, glue it on there. Or
Probably
whatever. So anyway.
So did it actually
good.
fly for the time that they said on the box?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing
Yeah.
because it's a 1-cell battery, right?
Yeah, I think so. In fact, it's the same one cell as you have in some of the drones that I've had. It's that 370 whatever battery, and
Right.
that's kind of cool
Single
too. Because
cell.
I had a bunch of those batteries, so then I didn't have to go and get different batteries. Because as you guys know, I don't like doing that.
Yes, we know you don't like doing that. Wow. All right. Our time is slowly going away. I think we reached our limit. And I don't know why I've just got hit with a wave of yawns trying to get enough air in here.
Are we boring you?
You're not boring me. I just I need oxygen or something. Who knows? It's probably all
Got
this-
stuffy in the room. There's two of you in there.
There is,
that-
yeah, normally. Yeah. he's breathing on me. So all that carbon dioxide or whatever it is, carbon
Monoxide.
monoxide. No, it's carbon dioxide.
Dioxide.
Made me
Monoxide.
sleepy. So, well, we'd like to once again give a shout out to A Power Batteries. We do have a PFPC 10. Go to rcbatteriesusa.com and check them out. Let us know how they work for you. When you need extra power, get A Power. And
Hey, power.
Power.
and then also check out 3daeroventures.com.
Aero
And,
Ventures.
and we give a shout out to them and use the 15% off Park Flyer in the checkout. And also let us know how that goes. Well, Jay and I are going to try and go fly probably while he's here. And,
Not
I have
burn
one
down
more thing.
all of
not
Arizona.
burn down Arizona because it's half
Yeah,
of Arizona's
I have
on
one
fire.
more. I have one more thing.
What's up?
If someone wants to call, they can call 830-444-4943.
That's right. And we look forward to hearing from Steve.
That's right.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And everybody else that's called. We've had more than just Steve call, but
Yeah, we're just teasing the guy.
yeah, it's always fun to hear from our listeners. So send us an email, parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com, or once again, number is 830-444-4943. Wherever you are in the world listening to our podcast or watching us on YouTube, we appreciate your patronage. You can always head over to our website at parkflyerpodcast.com and donate. That helps us keep the show running, and we do appreciate everything. Well, for Michael here in Arizona,
And Jay from the hills of Arizona.
the burning hills of Arizona.
Burning hills of Arizona.
AK Mike in Texas.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.